This is the Lincoln Continental, the all-new, all-American flagship from Lincoln. And when the concept of this car first came out 2 or 3 years ago, I was just desperate to drive it. And now I finally have it, so I can share my opinion with you of what I think of this car. And that is coming up here on the Drive Guide. Right, so we're on the highway and there's quite a lot of stuff to talk about this car. Let's start off by saying that there's 2 engines that you can get with this car, a 2.7 litre V6 and a 3 litre, which is what we have right now. And that is a twin turbocharged engine that produces 400 horsepower and pound-feet of torque. And both engines are mated with an all-wheel drive system. So let's just quickly start off with the seats, because they are 30-way adjustable. You can access the massage seats here, and yes, it has massage, and every outside seat does. If you go up and down by using these buttons or with the touch screen, you can then independently adjust the lower back, the upper back, the bolstering, so you really can find the perfect position for your body type. And for me, whenever I pick up any of these press cars, I might spend 2 or 3 minutes, just setting up the Bluetooth, getting the driving position, and then I'm off on my way. But this car, I spent like a good 10 minutes just going through the menus, just trying to find that perfect Goldilocks to make this the best position I could possibly find. There's so much you can talk about with the seats alone in this car. You can have the extendable thigh bolsters different on each side. So with me, of course, they're out all the way, but if I wanted to, stretch my left leg out a little longer, then I can just take this one back. But other things to note, the chrome work you see around here is real chrome. This open pore wood is really lovely to the touch, and the steering wheel feels really nice in the hand as well. And I need to note that I've been in quite a few cars that have heated steering wheels, but none of them are as good as this one. It heats up really quickly and it's the whole way around, whilst many cars I've been in, it would be only to sort of where the stitching ends on the wheel. It's the entire circumference. So alongside the touchscreen, you also do have this customizable digital display. And there's quite a lot you can do with it, but this setting that I currently have here is what I like to use when I'm on the highway. It's just so minimalistic and you can just focus on the road ahead. When I first saw the concept version of this car, I was immediately intrigued. And I think they did a fair job of bringing that concept to life. Yeah, there's a few details that are missing, but sort of the big highlights for people was that big chrome grille, those headlights, the door handles that are actually integrated to the belt line. And overall, I think it's a really handsome car. I like the way it slopes back when you look in the rear view mirror here. The door handles are above the rear haunch, so it just gives that sloping look down to the end. The overall sense with the other soft touch plastics and leatherettes throughout the car is very reminiscent what you'd see out of a Ford product, because at the end of the day, Ford owns Lincoln. And I feel as though if Lincoln were to take the next step and introduce full Napa leather all the way across the dashboard and down the sides, then it would be a lot more desirable of a product for people that are looking for a premium luxury sedan. I feel the same way with the majority of the buttons. 95% of them feel great in the hands, and I love the solidity and tactility to them. But the 2 dials that you interact the most with, the volume knob and the fan speed knob, don't feel like they're in the same class and category. They don't feel like they have that same solidity. They feel really light and fragile, and I don't like that. If they were to make these out of what felt like solid steel, that would really win me over. As this car does have lane keep assist and radar assisted cruise control, you can hit the massage button, lie back, blast some tunes on the 19 speaker sound system, which sounds brilliant, and just go on a long distance journey with no planning ahead. I would be happy to go for an hour's long drive for a grocery run and then end up at the grocery store to find out that I didn't bring my wallet with me. That's how comforting this driving experience is. Though this car certainly serves its purpose as a long-distance cruiser, let's see what it's like when you exercise that twin-turbo V6 in the twisties. Alright, so as we are in the twisties, I'm going to put the car into its sport mode, and you can shift manually with the paddles that are behind the steering wheel. When you are in manual mode, it's important to note that if you miss shifting at redline, the car will still shift for you. But when you are going at speed, here in the sport mode, the ride isn't compromised at all. It's still just as plush as what it was on the highway. You can certainly feel the turbo lag, and the gearbox shunts you around a bit. But as we brake hard into this corner here and go around, the all-wheel drive pulls you out every time, and if you look at the digital dashboard here, the car will tell you where the power is going. It is very clear though that this car was not built for this environment. It does lean in and out of the corners quite a bit. The lag is certainly noticeable with this car, but it really does pull. The sound isn't particularly inspiring or exciting. It's definitely a lot rowdier in sport mode, but as you just kind of coast down the hill like what I'm doing right now, it's really not all that invasive. There is a little bit of feel coming out of the steering wheel here. I'm very surprised to say that. It's clear to me that this car isn't the happiest here. It certainly prefers being on the highway. So saying that, let's now pull off into town to see what this car is like to live with on a day-to-day basis. So when you're in town, the first thing that you really notice is that the steering is speed adjustable. So if you're going through a parking lot, barely crawling speed, the steering wheel really turns a lot faster. And when I first got into the car, it's the first time I've ever experienced a system like it. And it was a little off-putting at first because you turn the wheel about a quarter of the way at the normal resistance that you've been feeling your entire time on the highway and going through the twisties and so on. But then when you get into town and you're going through a parking lot, it just feels like the wheel just slips out of your hand. It's just the electric motors at way to try and make navigating this 4,500 pound luxury barge around a parking lot. The car does feel very maneuverable, and it never really feels as big and as heavy as it is. Speaking of parking, this car does have automatic, perpendicular and parallel parking. I tried out both, and the parallel parking was a lot more successful than the perpendicular. A nice little note as well is that if you are stuck in a parallel spot, you can have the car navigate itself out for you as well. The touchscreen we have here does come with the Ford Sync 3 system with sort of Lincoln's custom overlay. And I really like it. It's very quick to react and it's very easy to use. And then you also have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with this system. This car has a few other interesting features as well, like soft closing doors, a massive trunk that you kick to open, can detect the speed limit by finding the signs, pre-collision warning. If the car thinks you're going to crash, it will apply the brakes for you, and then a 360-degree camera system as well. When you walk up to it, the main headlights and tail lights sort of glow in welcoming you to the car. These little lights that are under the door mirrors shine a light down on the ground to have this puddle of light with the Lincoln logo. You've got ambient lighting all around the car. This car is a lot more than just a luxury cruiser. It's more of a limousine. So let's pull over somewhere so we can have a good look at the back seats and what they have to offer. In the back of the Lincoln here is really where something special comes across. So first of all, we have the rear seat package, which, as I mentioned earlier, gives every seat on the outside heated, ventilated, and massage functions. But the big thing to note is when we fold down this here, we kind of get our own control panel. So back here, you can change the music that the driver has up there. You can change the source. And then you also get to play around with some things like the rear sunshade that can be controlled here and up at the front as well. And then you have your own independent climate controls, and then space for some cup holders, and then back here a little more hidden storage. If you were desperate to get something from the trunk, you just open it up and you can reach back there to grab whatever you need. In the back, you can see that where I'm sitting right around now, my head is slightly touching the roof, which is a bit of a shame. But you can fold these seats backwards. You can just stretch out to unwind and relax in this car. And even better is that you have the controls to move up this passenger seat even further away. And I'm just gonna see really how far this thing can go out of the sake of curiosity. I can stretch out my legs so far. I am spoiled for space back here. And then also you can see you have rear sunshades that are manual, and of all things, some ashtrays in the door handles. The headrests also can be pivoted inwards. Another thing back here is that in this car we have rear seat belts that are actually fitted with airbags. Goes to show who's the more valuable passenger in this car. So this back seat is really quite special. You still have the wood detailing around here and the chrome, and the ambient lighting will show up back here as well. The way you view this car is really based on what you think it competes against. Rightfully, many people will think it competes against, a BMW 5 Series, an Audi S6, a Mercedes AMG E43. And although those cars might compete in the same sort of price bracket, this car wouldn't compete against those in the sense of their mission. The mission for this car is backseat luxury. For those cars, it's more driving performance. So when you think of this car as a stretched luxury limousine and compete it against the likes of a Cadillac CT6 or a Jaguar XJL, I think this car shows real promise and a real competitive solution. So that's everything from me. Thank you so much for taking the time to watching this video. I hope you can like, share, and subscribe, and I hope to see you again on The Drive Guide.